a similar size.
So we're recording, Colin, so stand by for a quick intro. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. This is episode 60, and we're unwrapping the world's strongest man events, the highs, the lows, the competitors, some superlatives, and who to do it and talk about it better than the man behind the scenes, Mr. Colin Bryce, the tournament director and owner of Giants Live. So let's talk to everybody's favorite space cowboy on today's episode to unfold the events of the World's Strongest Man 2024. And here we are.
Very impressive, Nick. Very impressive. Sorry.
It's been 30 episodes, but you're back for round two. But how do you feel after the big weekend?
I feel good. I feel, all the better for seeing that impressive intro. Thank you very much. You dropped the dollar there, got the big editors in, made it Hollywood. I love it. Thanks, Nick. That's very good. I feel good. How do you feel?
It was a blur, but it was also a blast. I would think probably some of the highest and lowest, some low moments, but even the lows are even part of the best of the week. But just overall, coming back with a kind of a new outlook to life and just ready for more.
Can be, dude. Well, go on. What's your new outlook to life? Then tell me. What's your?
Oh man,
what's your raison d'être for being alive now?
Well, it was a big achievement. Well, yeah, we talked about in the past that I was, of course, getting to World's Strongest Man would be a huge life goal of mine. But just from in the recent days, even from other 105s trying to make that same transition, it's not a automatic bid, and there's been a lot of my friends that struggled to make that kind of climb to the heavyweight. So I wasn't really sure if it was something that was going to happen, maybe something 50-50. But in the end of the day, I'm glad that that happened, and it just ready to make more goals and more items going forward.
Well, I'm just trying to make some more light and make this look a bit sexier. Hopefully you can see me better there. Nick, when was it? 2 years ago, we started speaking about bollocks. We started speaking about WSM, not WSM. We started speaking at OSG, and you hit me with your surprising lack of confidence. Actually, I think you just won yet another title, and you at Worlds 105, and you didn't seem confident you could step up when I think everybody could clearly see quite how talented you were. And I think you somehow imagined that a lot of these heavyweights have some frame made by a dinosaur, when the reality is you really weren't far off it at all already. In fact, you were already a great heavyweight. You just had to then put a little more weight on and prove it to yourself. You're now Italian champion. You are a finalist in OSG at heavyweight. You have made the world's strongest man. And you have done incredibly well. What was your position in Europe's Strongest Man?
Sixth place out of 12.
Sixth place out of 12.
Top half.
Field in front of what was it? Best part of 9 or 10,000 people in the Leeds Arena. I mean, you rocked the house, mate. You stepped up. You were a total stud out there.
But you do look at the frames of someone like kind of Tommy Stolman, or I think I'm going to call him 3-time Tommy now, or Tommy 3 times. I'm trying to figure out what a good mafia name would be for him. But you do look at those kind of different frames. But then I think after our talk, I kind of took a deep dive into Strongman archives, and I was looking at the heights and weights of World's Strongest Man competitors and also the champions. So of course, like taking a look at Titus, even Derek Poundstone, Alexei Novikov, when they're probably at their lightest, but it was something that would look a little more obtainable. So kind of give me a little more confidence. But when I took a deep dive, it was interesting that 6'2" and 6'3" was the most common height for World's Strongest Man winners, or the highest percentile out of all of them. There's after 6'3", there's a big jump until there's a lot of 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys that didn't win championships, and then jump when you get to 6'8" and above, when you have of course the Thor, in the Brian Shaws.
I take it you ignored the bit about the average age of the world's strongest man. Did you look into that, or did you just
I think
a positive affirmation?
I didn't take those look at those stats. But do you know them on top of your head?
I actually asked ChatGPT to crunch the numbers for me, and it came back with an interesting answer. Actually, it took a while to prompt it properly, but it was God, I'd have to get it up. I actually can't remember exactly what it was, but it was lower than you thought it would be. It was, at least I did, even with Zydrunas skewing it heavily. Without Zydrunas, I think it might be 27 years old. Winner. Without Zydrunas. With Zydrunas, it takes it up to about 29 something, I think. Which is, you don't think is that lower than you thought it would be? The average age of a WSM?
I would think so. I would think in the early 30s. Yeah.
No, and surprisingly, because a lot of its history is people have come from other sports, so they've already been before they came to Strongman. But I think that just falls in line with most sports. I think people have a misguided belief sometimes that because Zydrunas was 38, 39, even Brian 38, 39, 40 was kicking ass even at the very top level. That anybody can do that,
Sure.
I'm not sure that is the best recipe, yeah. Just there you go. And the facts prove it. And you obviously, how old are you, Nick? And you didn't look it up.
I'll be 35 on Saturday, so in 2 days. But I look at someone like Luke Stoltman that kind of throughout his 30s it kept getting stronger. I know we all can't compare ourselves to Mark the Miracle Man Felix, but I think Luke is still kind of very similar kind of sense. I do have some sort of miles for competing for a while, but I don't quite have the heavyweight miles. So I would hope that I could stretch it to somewhere where Luke is right now. So that could be potentially another 4 or 5 years of solid strongmanning.
I mean, everybody's different. I mean, from moderation in everything, to mileage on the clock, as you say. Some people just burn out fast. Kevin Nee was gone by 21, basically. 22.
He was a Massachusetts guy. Of course, I was actually, or maybe this is more unfortunate, but I was there on his very last training session. He was just coming back. He came to train with me and Eric Dawson over at Dawson's place, and he was doing some axle, and then went to Stones, and then he went. The bicep tore for the 4th time on the Stones, and then we never really saw him back in the gym, unfortunately.
He wasn't much older than 21, 22, was he?
23. Well, I think he was 26 at the time.
Oh, was he? Okay, him maybe trying to make a comeback. Was it? Yeah, 4th bicep, I guess it was. Yeah. But he was probably best at 21, 22. Yeah.
He was, but it was a nice little kind of influence, kind of at least when I was kind of starting seeing someone like Kevin Nee around the gym, and of course, kind of learning accolades. And he was big on. I'm not sure if he had it across the pond, but it was MTV's True Life, and he was one of the stars back when. And when it talked about his 105 days, going to the heavyweights, and then making it to World's Strongest Man. So that was, I think that was one of my intros to kind of strongman, because it was a little more behind the scenes compared to just what you see at World's Strongest Man on ESPN when in the early 2000s when a lot of us were watching it.
Well, he sent me a video message about 2-3 years ago. And he was sitting watching I commentated a drone program where kids race drones. And he was like, Bryce, is this you commentating in my living room on drones? And I wrote back, said, yeah, that was me. And he said, so what are you up to? He said, I think he's like a Xerox photocopying machine salesman or something like that, or sales manager, or funny. He looked quite different. He looked slim. Anyway, what WSM? Where were we? I was flattering you, mate, and you stopped me. You did brilliantly. Oh. Let's just deal with that, Nick Canby, dude. I thought you were. You set a goal. You set about it. You did everything you could. You made yourself available for everything, and I think that I think you deserve a big round of applause, mate, from all Strongman fans.
Sure.
Respect to what you've done, because to make a WSM from that position there was difficult. I think we both agreed you might have maybe made a log, like a one-off token appearance in a big log champs or an axle, but to make it all the way to Worlds is quite something. in such a short period. So, yeah, well done.
Thank you, and hopefully many more. So yeah, I look forward to the next step. But let's talk about the heats, because there was, of course, there were so many great guys, great performances. So last time we did some pro livs, he had some funny ones. But I also kind of want to go through again. So do I need to go to a review of all the athletes before we start, just so we have a fresh, right? So group 1, Luke Stolman, Tristan Host, Kevin Ferris, Trey Mitchell, Oscar Zukowski, and Eddie Williams. Group 2, Mitchell Hooper, Austin Andrade, Andre Foytu, Spencer Remick, Gav Bilton, and myself. Group 3, Adam Bishop, Rob Kearney, Matthew Ragg, Ivars, Tom Evans, Patrick O'Dwyer, which I learned the other day.
He's not actually Patrick. No, he's not.
He's not Patrick?
No.
Oh, I think someone lied to me then. Group 4, Evan Singleton, Pavlo, Marcus Crowder, Kane Francis, Evans Nana, Ronald Heinla, and then Group 5, Tommy Stolman, Westervinsky, Jaco Schoonwinkel, Adam Rojakowski, Nathan Goldtree, Bobby Thompson. So who was your biggest surprise out of the heats, or who kind of shocked you the most by their performances?
Well, I mean, shock of the whole darn tournament is Hoeth, Tristan Hoeth. That guy was I don't think he shocked himself. That's the funny thing. He made the final. Where did he finish? Was it 5th position?
5th.
Unbelievable.
I don't know if you caught of any of his interviews. He said that one of the interviews is like, yeah, I was coming into this with 2-week notice, just hoping not to take last, and he wins his heat. So you talk about having expectations for yourself.
I've got a theory on him. Because I chatted to him in the morning after, and it was very, very enlightening. He basically had been training for competition, sort of whatever summer to end of, and then had taken a bit of a down period to get back and then come back up to the couple of Champions Leagues, and was getting back in shape for those. So he was a bit more like an old-fashioned athlete. Usain Bolt wins the 100 meters in August at the Olympics. He then has a good 6 to 8 weeks of doing almost nothing. And then he goes into a hypertrophy macro phase, and then he starts to fine-tune it and reduce the reps and distances, and finally he gets into world-class sprinting pace sometime mid-July, having started the season in June with a couple of 10-1s and 10-2s before he suddenly unleashes 9.5 on the world in 100 meters. And I think basically, a lot of guys try and peak just for too long or too many times in 1 year. And I think that's a big problem. Tristan Hoeth had never done over 400 kilos in a deadlift. He'd done it once, sometime last year. And he then, in the final, did 373 kilograms for 7 at the end of the WSM final, which was basically, he didn't just do 5th in World Strongest Man. He actually won a strongman contest called Heat 5, whatever he was in, with some world-class guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder if, for instance, like what kind of performance we could have saw from him if he did have the notice, or if he did have 10 weeks to put something together.
My point is he might not have done any better. I would go as far as to say I think he agreed with me. He just nailed everything perfectly. He was on form, in shape, peaked out. Sometimes if you're sometimes people just they have too much notice. They might just get it wrong, overtrain or train too hard too late. He couldn't do anything. He had no time. He was kind of in shape anyway, so just rolled the dice and over he came. I mean, he was peaking for a general season, as it were. So yeah, I think a lot of guys probably started peaking for Worlds probably in December in the hope that they would just keep on gaining. You know what I mean? And probably stay like that. Arnold's into whatever. So it's. I mean, how many times would you try and peak in a season? Properly peak. How many times would you take a genuine down period of 5 or 6 weeks off relaxing, or at least 4 weeks?
Have
you ever taken
following OSG? I took 3 weeks completely off, and then I did 3 weeks light. So that was about 6 week period. But those 3 weeks, I didn't touch any weights, and it was also like Christmas time and holidays, so it made it easy not to hit the gym. But to your point, I think the bigger you are, the more you can kind of do smaller peaks and still be doing all these bigger contests. But I think the typical strongman can probably peak twice in a given year. So my goal was to kind of my main peak was Europe's, and then go with the kids say YOLO for World's Strongest Man, because I wasn't guaranteed, so I had to focus on the first goal. But I think I also potentially have another good peak in me for the fall. But I was planning regardless to do a little more kind of hypertrophy work, or just working towards my main goals. It's 18 months in terms of being a heavyweight, and I think I still have room to grow, and be able to put on more tissue and hypertrophy.
You still got the chisel look, you got the
Kind of.
That magnificent Italian hair. So
I learned the hair wasn't the Florentine side of myself. It was more of the Southern Italian, which I found pretty interesting. But of course, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But speaking of best looks, who do you thought was most handsome? Besides myself, who was the most handsome strongman out there on the field?
Nick Guardioni.
Well, he didn't compete. He was helping out Austin. But I thought Austin had a great head of hair. Of course, Pavel always comes looking well, but I think the person I would say kind of takes the cake this year was maybe Mr. Crowder. He had a good set of hair and beard combination.
He did. There was an incredible amount of beard. Actually, it was I felt, if you'd have had a beard, you might have just been stronger, Nick. Or you certainly stood out for not having a beard, which is, interesting. It's just a note of no importance. But I don't know who was looking great. Dan Hipkiss, I have to say, his mullet was looking fantastic from the sidelines. That's a good question, eh? I think our man Austin needs to get the full Eddie Hall Mohican to finish off his Mexican Eddie Hall look.
I thought he already has a pretty clean look. But so what we need, so pretty much Eddie does kind of like a one into the mohawk, right? That's pretty easy to do.
To be fair, Ed looked pretty good. It has to be said. Ed's always looking pretty polished these days. Terry looked good. Terry looked $1 million.
Well, yeah, look at all the cool suits. But in terms of the competition, so who was in the final that you were hoping that, not hoping, but you think you should have gotten in the final? Of course, I think the easy one would say Bishop. It was just tough to see him do so well and going to one of his best events, knowing, of course, with his Achilles coming off. But I think it was a little, of course, I got to spend some time. It was a little sore heading into this, but so if it didn't go then, it might have gone later.
Listen, Nicholas, if we're going to get the podcast numbers, mate, we're going to have to go head on with Big Loz. What is Big Loz? And let's go for a furious. What are Big Loz and Big Liz? What do they say? Come on, we'll take them head on.
So you say in terms of
I'm sure everyone. That's a ridiculous statement, but I'm having a bit amusing here because I did watch a bit of Loz's as much as I could actually recently, and he is all very good, brilliant stuff actually. But Bish, and of course, University Bish is a loved character. And he was so damn strong. He was, the fastest time with those 5 barbells in 2022 in Sacramento was a young Mitchell Hooper, a fresh-faced Mitchell Hooper who went out and did all 5 at the top of my head in about 31 seconds. So unbelievable. It was 5 or 6 seconds ahead of anybody else. So I think 13 men did it. 13 men did it. Bish went out and did it in 26 seconds? So he absolutely smoked that. I mean, he was in great form, Bish. He was so shit the year before as well. That was the funny thing. But Bish he's kind of like that. He can be magnificent or poor. Anyway, I think everyone would have liked to have seen him make it. Yeah, but if spots maybes, he didn't. I just hope he gets another chance in the future. But you never know. There's the crop of guys that are coming through. Are pretty terrifying. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. The old guard, to steal one of Loz's lines, and I thought he said it perfectly, the old guard could be in trouble. This is a new generation of supermen who are able to do everything and pass a very large battery of tests in the official strongman games are coming through. Marcus Crowder, basically 1,000-pound deadlifter, good at everything except stones, sadly for him, because he needed.
I think that's one thing he will clean up, because he's a great squatter. He just has to get his legs together a little more and get a little more use. But he actually had a little bit of a, of course, you probably mentioned in his own talks, but a little of an abductor strain going into it. So given the circumstance, I think he did pretty good. But of course, you always want to be in the final, so that's something that he's going to have to work on. But I think that's a pretty easy I think that's a pretty easy fix for Marcus. I was actually pretty impressed. The Yako Schoonwinkel was versus Westervinsky Stoneoff was probably the most exciting. And I think that really came down to probably just one more stone between any of them. Yako could have been in the finals again, but especially coming out for a ACL tear, that's even probably terrifying for him, because putting on so much strain, especially at the end of 6 events, but they both put it all out there. But I'm not sure if you knew too much of West heading into OSG, but I caught wind of him probably back in either 2021 or 2022. He was doing some kind of outrageous farmer's walk with 200 kilos in each hand or more. I think he had one in one of JF's show. It could have been Canada's Strongest Man or one of the circuit shows.
Go on then, Nick. Thinking of farmer's walk, how could you reinvent the stone off? Loz and Liz, they're always banging about it. I hate the stone off, this and that. I think it's a magnificent thing. But I think WSM must also always look for the answers that could be out there, the greatest finish of all time. I think everybody knows the reason why we do it, and certainly I think certainly appreciate that, and a lot of the fans do. You need the final 5-10 minutes to be total all action, and it didn't used to be. It used to be just a dead rubber coming back from the final break, and we're coming back now to watch the Stones, where 2 men have already qualified, and you're all turning off. No one cares. Join us in the final in a week's time. So give me the answer. Give me the answer, Nicholas. I'm all ears. In fact, if anybody answers below, please, I'd love to know as much about everybody's thoughts. There is no such a thing as a bad thought. Please pile down the answers and give me some thoughts, because I can have a chat with people. I'm going to try. I think it works and works brilliantly, but it could work a whole lot better, maybe. Tell me.
All right. So here's my first shot at it. So you could potentially do kind of simulations, kind of stone off type, so kind of versus, but with different implements. So you could start with potentially a yoke into fingers, something that you can be all in one gear. So it could be all moving events, could be into farmers, and then potentially finish off with, you could even finish off with a press, but it's got to come down to what that athlete's good at the end. But they would have to go through potentially 4 different implements or 4 different events into that, but stone off type. So
isn't that what you've kind of already just done though?
But it's instead of just doing straight stones, it would be other disciplines that you didn't touch in the prior events.
So you've had 5 events, and you would need to have another 5 events laid out for a mad mass all-in-one decathlon event. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So it'll be extremely tough on the athletes, but it could potentially be.
No, I know. Fair enough. Think big. Think whatever. There is no wrong and there is no right. Time limit. How does it work? How do you give the advantage to the guy? Because I was always key in my mind. You need that advantage guy in second.
How can you give the guy the advantage?
Let me hit you with one. Let me hit you with an idea.
All right.
And this might also get other people thinking, and then, people can bounce ideas off each other. How about, because it's good to have it starting on one side. The hot potato thing works well, though for different reasons it doesn't work well. But you start with, let's say, 140 each hand. You got a 10-meter ravine. You run it across, put it down. Second place goes, he runs it back, puts it down. Great. Move on to the next farmer's walk. 160 kilos. Third goes first, second takes it back. 180 kilos. Third goes first, second goes back. In other words, it is the farmer's walk off. So it just changes things up. It's grip power. It's, movement power, hip power, individual leg power. it's another daddy of strength. The Farmer's Walk it's at the high table of ye olde important events, and therefore it isn't just a smorgasbord of shit.
So if the third place goes first and they don't finish, the number 2 wins, even without doing the next jump.
Yeah. I would probably let them. In my mind, there's no point in just having them dead with one drop, because it's got to be a battle. And a short distance would suggest you could then go very heavy and maybe still absolutely bowls it out. So, it could be, basically 10 yards for those Americans who are watching who aren't so au fait with meters. But, 10 meters, what could you do 10 meters with if you had a 20-second time period to get it across? Fresh and not fresh.
At least, I would say probably 180, 190.
Yeah. And there's some men who could probably
there's some guys that got to get into probably like 210 if you have like something like West.
It's an idea, but maybe, whatever. What if you then combined it with stones? Pom, 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 one the other. I mean, we could work. There's definitely ideas there, but I think in my mind, it's got to be a granddaddy event. It's got to be, you know what I mean? It's also got to be, I feel it's got to be packed into a little cauldron. So just doing a giant layout of events like a.
I think you could do that.
Of American football field full of stuff that doesn't feel like unless of course you have the travelator at the end, like gladiators, and it all comes tight at the end or something. But I mean, it should be a battle as close to confrontation as you get. Because I'm not a fan of strongmen actually smashing into each other. That's silly.
So I think you could do that pretty much with pretty much every event. So you can do a farmer's off, a log off. You can even do like a something with a fingers, like the last finger is very heavy, and you just keep going back and forth until someone can't finger at the end, right? And it bows down. But that could get dangerous if they're extremely exhausted. But that's
that element's a funny one, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe I'll twist the stones. That Sticks and Stones guy's great, I have to say. What he created in the old Webster Stones was magnificent, and he's done it for OSG as well. I think if you could create a set of WSM stones, and then maybe you could lower the height a little bit of it, and you could actually go up with natural stones, so there'd be a bit more of so it's not just a polished, clean lift. In some ways, that it's a good thing that somebody like a Tom Stoltman is just so incredible. But also, it would mean even a Tom Stoltman could go into it up against you. And if you suddenly figured out a way to lift the 240-kilo awkward natural stone, and you could get it to your knees and plop it over, maybe he couldn't. There would be more of you know what I mean? It's more of an element of doubt there then.
Very interesting. I think those are all kind of great ideas. I think you need to get in front of a panel and kind of.
You're a WSM, ex, and now jury. You're in the high council of strength here. Hit me, baby. Come on. Who's better to speak to than you? Former world champion at 105.
That is true. Of course, thank you, Colin. But I think those are all superb ideas.
I could give Nick Guardioni a call and say he's great for this guys. Just to let everyone in on the little joke here. It's the American Italians are all fighting it out. Hopefully Nick can join you guys at Italy's Strongest Man, right? He is a full Italian, and he wants to represent Italy now, so he tells me.
We're trying to get him over to an internet to do kind of like an international show. But I think it's really on the promoters if they want to take him in. But in terms of actually competing alongside with the Italians, absolutely. And then I think that goes for anybody else that's listening, because they really want to expand the Italian front. And I don't know why there are more competitions in Italy, because I think they're one of the few shows where you can compete and then have a 9-course meal after. So it's not. I think it would be competing in, of course, the best of ways and with the best of food. So I think someone to consider.
Who's better? Which Nick is better?
Well, I think right now you had to go with the Canby, but I think he's only 28. So I think in a few years it could be a head-to-head fantasy for someone like yourself, Mr. Brycey.
I'm just The Strongman, he's not so nice behind your back. He's talking tough, you know. He's going to beat you next year. He's going to be the Italian to talk about, and of course, there's the other massive Italian who lives in Italy. Crikey, his name slipped out of my head again. What's his name?
Mr. Invernizzi, Andrea.
Yes, he's massive, isn't he?
Massive.
He's a tough guy. 6'8".
He's 6'5", but he's
not 6'5". He's way bigger.
Don't you have Strongman archives up? I'm pretty sure he's 6'5".
Hold that thought 1 second. This is.
But he's Andrea likes to tune in, so of course I hope he's listening. So I hope I'm represent him in the best light. So he's, I think originally, so he lives in Milan, but his of course his heritage is from like the mountainous areas of Italy. Yeah, so that's usually you have more kind of fairer skin, blonder hair, and larger men. I think I want to say also Guardione's family's from up that direction as well.
Oh, he's Sicilian, he said, didn't he?
Sicilian? Did he?
He is 6'5". You're right.
But he's just maybe he's wearing some platform shoes when you saw him.
I think I only briefly met him. Marcel's been banging on these 6'7", 6'8" to me. You know, there you go.
He's definitely the biggest talent that's rolled through in how many years. So, and he's only been in the sport for a few years. So I think the sky's the limit, but he's also a little older. So depending on how long he wants to do it and how hard he wants to give it a go. So I hope he does kind of at least an OSG and starts getting into that mix. But let's get back to a little bit of kind of like the superlatives a little bit. Yes. Like, you know, I was gonna say like who was the fastest strongman this weekend, but you could also say that was probably Kearney kind of winning that yoke run. I know some guys took it off, but I think he still would have held really fast against someone like Mr. Mitchell Hooper. Who's the funniest strongman you saw all weekend? You have a load of characters, but who made you laugh?
Okay, let's go in reverse order. Down in 30, there was Nick Campbell. I can't resist. Sorry, mate. No, Nick, I love you. Who made me laugh? Bloody hell. Good old belly laughs. Terry Hollinsby wasn't competing. Terry makes me laugh all the time. I love Tel.
I'm surprised it's not an easy one. I thought Evans Nana is quite the character. I think he made me laugh on and off the field.
He's a very lovable character, that's for sure.
And he's definitely he's a recruiter of for life or nighttime activities. So he's
I wouldn't know Mr. Canby. He's never recruited me. You know, yeah, he said he's has a bit of fun anyway. He's been schooled in the SEL. Actually, Kane Francis is he's what a happy-go-lucky figure he is, isn't he? He's good fun. Travis Ortmeyer, bloody hell, I was good seeing Travis again. I love. He's just a great guy to talk to, an absolute stud. I thought Luke Stolman. I had a lovely chat with him at the end. I can chat to Luke Stolman all day. Just makes me laugh. You know what I mean?
Well, he looks like a shaman now because he wears his
that Yoda outfit, doesn't he?
It's from Wim Hof, the Iceman. So I think of course, I don't know if you got a chance to watch their little trip out to Wim Hof. They spent a few days with there, but I feel like ever since then he's been wearing that. He also wore that at Europe's, so I think there's some magic behind that. And of course, they're very chill guys. I wake up and look at my Instagram, and they're already up and about and going for a dip, and they're twice more as active and twice as the size of than me. I don't know how they do it. Like I got to. I took a nap when I first got in there, and then I headed to the beach. And then Luke and Tom were just playing soccer or just volleying the ball around. And I tried to work in, but I was embarrassing myself because Tommy Stolman has way better foot skills than I ever had.
Hang on. You do know Tom Stolman was a really talented footballer. You do know that.
You know, I think after kind of watching some of the videos, I did, but I didn't. You would like, I don't know if sometimes I feel like some skills I had as a kid kind of went away once I put on weight. But for him, he still has it. He's very athletic. It's unassumingly athletic, especially in the feet.
Oh, I mean, with his massive size, 19 feet. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, he played in a big charity game last year at Tottenham's ground, like 45, 50,000 people watching. It was on ITV.
That's when he was the goalie, correct?
He was goalie, yeah. He was goalie, yeah, and he played. He did bloody well. He was. They won, and it came down to a penalty shootout, if I remember correctly. I think, and he was. Yeah, he didn't get enough credit. Actually, he played really, really well. He did take a lot of the goal up, which is always a big help. But yeah, Big Tommy, he did really well. I mean, anyway, what were we talking about? What was the question?
But we were saying that the funniest strongman week, but we could also kind of move over to it. Did out of the group of guys, last time you were on, you said that Dave Osland was the smelliest strongman out there.
That's not fair on Dave.
Because of his knee sleeves.
No. Dave is his neoprene. He never washed them, and you could just. It was a kind of moment when he opened up his training bag and he pulled them on. It was some sort of weird. Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
So I don't think anybody actually from all the guys. I thought everybody was well kept. So I don't think anybody's going to beat Dave Osland. But I did want to note about the heats. So kind of moving on to kind of my next topic. So yeah, pretty interesting event. So the first time having something like the Webster Stones, deadlift ladder, and of course I don't know the last time we had a Viking press in the heats. But you
did you like the Viking press, Mr.
Oh, absolutely. Of course I enjoy the Viking press, and I thought that was kind of pretty visually appealing too. And also it was a good way to. I thought it was also difficult enough that it did spread out the points. There weren't like a lot of ties, so I thought that it was a great event.
Why did you drop to your knees straight away? That was a kind of weird movement. Was that?
Well, I was. Excuse me, but I was done. Of course, the timing was over. But yeah, I usually kind of drop down into a crouch position after because I do have pretty flexible hips and knees from my wrestling days. But it was just one of those things where I was just completely done. So I just want to get out from under the weight.
Fair enough. And how many reps you do? But you had
I got 13. I thought I think looking back at it, I think I could have probably at least squeezed out one or two more. I think I had 2 misses, but I was happy with the 13 reps given the bad arm, the tear I had. So I think.
Oh, let's hold that up again. Let me see it.
We think.
Look at those guns, baby.
It's a little bit of work. It's not as cool as your tattoo from this weekend, but I think it's.
You were. Yeah, that was a weird moment. Very moment. Moving on swiftly. Where are we then?
So in terms,
let's talk about some of the things.
Hard, but I was.
Andre Foytu needs discussed. Right. Not discussed enough. Can I just say, if you ever get the chance to come to World's Strongest Man, and a World's Strongest Man winner's in your group, and he starts whispering in your ear, don't listen to him. Be your own man. Step up. Do your best, or things may well go against you. There's no point in playing someone else's game. As cracking a fella as Mitch is, as genius as he is, I'm not sure he did Foytu any favors by saying, "Hey, let's share this win. Let's share that." Foytu who was first at Europe's Strongest Man carrying the stones?
Foytu.
Who was first? Foytu. Okay, so he's pretty damn good, isn't he? He could have taken Mitch. How far did he do? 24 odd meters. Now Mitch was pretty good at those, but that's about where Mitch set the world record when he did set it once. So I think Foytu could have beaten him in that had he stuck by his guns, and that starts to change the whole dynamic. He basically sent himself guaranteed into a stone off. And what would you say his worst event is?
Probably stones out of that bunch. So, yeah, that's
what can you say? What can you say to that? Don't worry, you're not going to offend Super. I mean, he made it to the final and came saying he did brilliantly. He's had a good time. And I'm sure he would even turn around and say, well, you're playing the game. And he would even turn around and maybe say, I thought I was doing him a favor. It would save energy for his stone off. But I'm just saying, make sure you have your own game plan if you come to WSM. It is an individual sport. And, the history books don't remember that you were really friendly about giving away points.
So there's
Come and be
the
sporting, but don't be a you know, just don't do it.
Yeah, I don't know if he underestimated the Austin Andrade's stone lifting ability, because of course Austin, I think, is sneakily one of the best stone lifters out there. But I also think with 42, you kind of have the purist and the strategist. Maybe the strategist might make deals, but the strongman purist would want to run the reigning champion to the ground and make him earn it. So I think there's two different schools of thoughts of kind of looking at it. So maybe I don't know if
right. There's the wrong school of thought, and then there's the right school of thought, because he sadly listened to the wrong school of thought. And where did he make the final?
No. He didn't. So at least he's making that mistake at 22 rather than maybe 35 like myself.
Listen, you've no idea how many opportunities you'll get in life.
Yeah, that's just true. That's when you
I'm sure we'll see him 20 times more, but you just never know. Grab your opportunity while it's there.
Well, that was kind of like the conversation that we had when you, of course, after the potential bicep, the forearm tear, you said there's no shame in, of course, stepping out.
I'm going to say something next to you, Nick, because I think you need it. Amazing, you've done all these different things, but I don't think you actually have the belief like you think. And I'm going to tell you, you can win World's Strongest Man, mate. You are good enough. You bloody are good enough. So you should now change your thought process. Don't just worry about Nick Guardiola and trying to become Italy's strongest man. I'm not even remotely joking. It's time to become World's Strongest Man, mate.
But you just keep bringing up Nick.
Hey?
No, nothing, but I'm listening. I think
I meant his name again. I can't always miss his
You just keep bringing him up.
I know, but I'm just having fun. But I'm not having. I'm absolutely deadly serious about this, and I'm sure Mitch would tell you, he's really not that different than anybody else. In fact, he was shite at fitness. He was not the greatest marathon runner, and he just, I think he just works exceptionally hard, and he has ridiculous belief. Tom, I'm sure Mitch wouldn't be insulted if I said Tom has considerably more talent naturally. That's clear and obvious. But you're very athletic, very fast. You just got to take away, man. Go for it. Part-time training, part-time results. Full-time training, full-time results. Go for it, Nick Canby. You can do it, buddy.
Hey, isn't that the conversation you had with Mr. Stolman for him to get off the gas rigs?
And do you know where I had it? I had it while I was in a van, driving a van. It was only as recently, I think, it was either 2019 or very early 2020. And he pulled over and he went, "Oh, is that Bryce? Tell me that again." And he stopped. I'm gonna write that down, Bryce. That's great stuff. That's great stuff. And he did. He wrote it down. And where he wrote it down while driving a van, doing nothing wrong with van driving, by the way, but it's very hard to van drive and be an absolute world-class strongman. And he wrote that down. And where he wrote it down is now where the sign is for Invergordon, home of the Stoltman brothers, is right where he pulled over, going into a small town. And now there's 3 signs on every in and out, every exit and entrance into the town. And then he told me that. It's quite a nice little twist. That's the mindset. I don't know. It's up to you, man. It's up to you. This isn't about. It's not the era of Mitch and Tom Stolman. Why isn't it the era of Nicholas Canby?
The era of the Stallion?
Damn straight. Why not? I love the era of the Stallion. Dun, 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 dun. Bring it on. You moved to Philadelphia and you're away.
Oh, there's not too much strongman in Philly. I would think I would be better off in Boston, or maybe just do long training montages in the hills of Tuscany. We can always do something like that, right? But any montage in Italy might just be an eating montage. So maybe
I'm in. Twist my arm.
But I thought 42. But overall, I think 42 had a great contest. I think if you put all the points together, you would have been in the top 10. So I think that's could be very interesting. But the other note that I had here about 42 is that they kept saying he was the youngest competitor to ever compete at World's Strongest Man since 2011. So I think it was Kevin Nee, who we brought up at the beginning of the show, was the other individual in 2011. Is that right?
2011? Kevin Nee still around then?
I believe so.
No way. I mean, Kevin Nee, his first one was 05. That's when he was
was
young.
he? It was quick. So maybe I have that. Maybe they have that wrong. But
I mean, if Nee was beaten in 2011 by someone. Where were we in 2011? That was in America. That was at the casino, wasn't it? Oh no, South Africa. No, it was
Malaysia.
28 years, and luckily, Malaysia. No, that was 15, mate.
Let's see.
No, actually, we did it twice. The other one, 02, 03.
It was in Wingate University. Was that North Carolina?
Wingate University. And who was in the bloody lineup then? This is annoying me. We need LY.
So you had so it was, I think it was the year that I think either Brian or Zadrunas won. And let's see, I think maybe it was, you know what the stat was? I'm confusing. It was Derek Poundstone. So they said Tristan Hoth was the first officer to compete at World's Strongest Man since Derek Poundstone in 2011. So that's
you've set us off in a massive wild goose chase. Yeah.
But that's what we like. But the question I was trying to get at earlier. So let's say you change some of the events in the heats that we had, like a throw, a truck pull, fingers, or a squat. You think the results would be dramatically differently than we would see the guys that made the finals?
No, I really don't. I think it would be different, of course. There's some.
So you want to think it would be dramatic?
Margin now between, people are shouting, the groups are the best ever this year, and I'm awful pleased people are shouting that. Mm-hmm. But really, it's actually what it is it's the highest amount of quality athletes we've ever had, which just makes it easy to make the groups easy and to make the groups tight. And because of that, some of the groups you could have had 6 men who could have made the final. It wouldn't have been ridiculous. Now people like Tristan Hoeth come through. You know what I mean? You might have assumed he'd finished down in 6, but there were so many guys who could take points everywhere. People might have thought you would be an easy guy. People, give me that guy, give me the lightweight guy. I want him. He's but you took points off people, and if you actually had been fully, uninjured, in a dream day, how many more points would you have got? Uninjured.
Well, I got 0 points on the steeplechase, and that would have been historically a good event for me. Just running and moving.
In other words, you could have won that one. In fact, I would say you should have won that one. I would go as far as to say that, because you are such an athlete and you are fit and lighter. You should win that one. Mm-hmm. If you'd won that one, where would you be?
Give me a moment. I got to do a little research. So fill in the guests with something.
This will just be edited out, right? Just both of us hit the same pose. Cut. Right, there we go.
It took. So let's say, I think that would have pushed me to a little past Spencer. I think it would still been, because Austin Andrade had 20 points in 42, so I've been right out. So I would have had to kind of squeeze out a few more points somewhere else. I think taking I would say the Webster Stones kind of hurt me a little bit. I did tweak kind of my forearm going into it, like right at the gate. But I still think that 20. I think I really had a really strong grit group, because the shortest from there was 25 meters. I think I could have squeezed out 20 meters if I was a little more healthy, but that still would have been probably last in the group. So it would just, but anyway, I think I would have mixed up some of the points in general.
So you had 10.5 points. You were ahead of Big Gap, who I must say was one of the high seeds in that group.
He was looking great. The course is unfortunate. He just had the heat exhaustion.
Look at that group. Gab built second of Britain's Strongest Man on a massive, chart like that going forward, and then he comes last, right, because of heat exhaustion. Spencer Remick, he's basically a 2 times OSG champion. You know what I mean? This guy is a killer now. I mean, he's good at everything. If only we could just light a fire under him and get him a bit more angry. Get him the berserker gene that Johannes Larsson used to have. Spencer Remick is absolutely as talented as Johannes Arsho, he just lacks the berserker gene. And
super static. He's has a great. He can rep out like a
all
190,
round.
195 kilo or 430-pound log. He's as strong as it gets.
If he could just, Anyway, that's another story for another time. 42 and Terade. Look at this. This is a tough group you had looking back. Hooper. Yeah, I mean, 10.5 points. Could you have made the final there? No, okay. You pick up 6 points. You're now on 16.5. Bring all those guys down a point. Absolutely. Suddenly it's a whole lot closer. It looks a whole lot better, doesn't it? You won the sack race. And then, as you said, Webster Stones.
Hooper's one of the best movers out there. So
you got 1 point for the Webster Stones.
Yes.
What were you doing? 14 meters. How can you do that so bad?
So I was mentioning before, that's kind of where the form that I have kind of clicked on me, kind of come right with the grab there. So I wasn't able to kind of run with it like some of the other guys, but I think I probably could have on a good day squeezed out 20 meters, but 25 meters was the guy that took 5th place. And so I had an incredible kind of grip group. So I think I just was mismatched there when it comes to some grip.
Okay, well, you're being very honest. That's very, very fair. I mean, those considerably easier than the nickel stones, I would say, considerably.
Yes, because they didn't move as much. So those actually I felt moved more like a farmer's. So if, like, for instance, in hindsight, if I were to train that, I would train more farmers like grip events rather than do the pure nickels where you're focusing more on your tolerance of hand pain and stuff like that. So I think in the overall points, I only beat a couple guys in the nickel stones, but at Europe's I beat a few more guys. But I think it was almost to the way that it didn't turn as much. It almost made it like a kind of a different event than the kind of pure nickel stones. But that makes it pretty exciting.
Too much respect from the sounds of things, and you treated it like the nickel stones when actually you should have just picked up and dragged up and down as far as you can go, as fast as you can go.
Exactly. So I think it's just one of those things where just experience on there. So let's see if it sticks around. But Colin, I do have a pretty interesting question. So you talk about how, of course, even filling in for some of the injured people, we still had a really great 30 guys coming to World's Strongest Man. But like looking into like next year, so like for instance, I think I did the math. So technically, out of like the 2 OSGs, so you had OSG Europe and OSG America. You end up taking 6 guys. So potentially, what happened if you take another 6 guys or 5 guys next year, and then you have guys that made the finals, like Smash, West, and Tristan. So they're getting probably invite back since making the finals, and they're probably going to be looking to make a big splash. But you also had guys that, of course, didn't do as well. Like,
how are we going to invite people back next year? Is that what you're getting around?
Well, not how, but I'm just saying this overall picture. So let's just say everybody stays healthy. So you had guys like Bobby and Bish that of course got injured this time around. You had guys like Trey on their way back up, and then you had guys like Mateus, Alexi, Martins, Flowers, and even like people like potentially Maxime or maybe a Lucas Haddon floating around there that weren't in there. So that's almost potentially another 6 guys, 7 guys that could potentially make the finals all in next year. So if all those guys stay healthy, could be even more scarier lineup next year, which makes it pretty exciting as a competitor and also as a fan of the sport.
Novikov, Kirishkovsky. I mean, Hatton isn't as well known, obviously, and he's had some good results. Just sadly, he's not come and done it. When the W has been available to him, so and for different reasons, and we're all very friendly. But please, don't anyone think that somehow we were, freezing him out or something. It's just the Arnold's UK is not a WSM qualifier. It's a hand-picked invitational contest and good fun and whatnot, but it just isn't. It's just not part of the system, and he realizes, and he's still somewhat new to strongman. That'd be fair to say, isn't it? So he's a few years now, right? But not like 10 years.
I think like 2019. It's of course not to quote him, but I think it was 2019.
Okay, well,
still
Forgive me if he didn't come on my radar until after COVID, and kind of disappeared. So I've known about him for a couple of years. He went and won America's Strongest Man. It was basically in the last 12 months, wasn't it?
November.
Hmm?
November. So about 6 months.
For OSG, he chose not to do OSG. Had he done it, then who knows? Maybe he'd have bumped you out the top 10, and we never would have seen Nick Camby. So there we go. Everyone grabs.
Technically, I was 9th going into the finals, so it bumped. Ortmeyer, not Ortmeyer, but Oldbringer out.
I just love teasing you. That's all. Anyway, had Guardian there, would have been a different. He'd have definitely.
Well, the other one I forgot about is sometimes Iron Bibby kind of makes an appearance to World's Strongest Man if he's not too busy doing politics in his home country. So
well, he had tougher reasons than that this year, but we wish him very well, Bibby, because he's an absolute legend of a fella, and he's Bibby is absolutely rock star strong. So there's a tipping point. I can't say exactly where it is, but the tipping point is getting higher and higher every year now, where you're going to have to requalify. There are guys like Kieliszkowski. We don't need to force Kieliszkowski back to OSG right now, but Kieliszkowski has to just come and do a Giants Live and qualify. And he was going to do that, with Europe's, but sadly got injured. And, wish he'd stop his obsession with Arnold's. But there you go. He must do whatever he wants to do, and he called his son Arnold, so I think you can see. But anyway, will all the finalists of WSM get a guaranteed invite next year? No, they don't, Nick. Just to be quite clear about that, absolutely not the way it is. The returning champion gets an invite, and former WSM champions who say they are in shape, and we can check them out to make sure they are in shape, can get an invite guaranteed as well. And that's it until you go to Giants Live, top 3. OSG gets you to Giants Live, but it's fast becoming a direct route. That's clear and obvious. And it's so easy then to go to a 4th, 5th, 6th at the Giants Lives, and it's so easy to then go to 4th, 5th, 6th at OSG. And that's it's just we know the type of competitions they are. We see and we feel, we touch, we know the guys are good, and that's that's your way to get to World's Strongest Man. That's the only way.
I was actually gonna ask about that. So, like, for instance, like for Giants Live, you have the York show coming for like ESM and BSW, but then you have the Strongman Classic, the Strongman Open, the USA Championships, the World Tour Finals, and you have guys like Evan, Mitch, and Tom in those contests, and they could suck up the top 3 podium spots at each of one of those contests if they're healthy and peaked. I know, of course, we had like someone like Matt Ragg get in the middle of those guys last year, and then some other individuals. I think you guys forget at the show that Evan won the deadlift champs, but of course, you had 2 guys come into the podium. For instance, like
Birmingham this year, and if you want to come and see it, folks, it is September 7th in Birmingham. If you want to come see that one again, that's not the deadlift. That's just the open.
So my question would be, so for instance, like if those guys kind of suck up the podium spots, you start looking at the 4th, 5th, and 6th guys from the previous.
Of course we do. Absolutely. That's why Rob Kearney got there. Guess where Rob finished in Cardiff?
Didn't he tie for 3rd and then got bumped down? Is that what happened?
Came 4th, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, all right. So, but it's all about just putting your best performance in and seeing how against you stack up the top guys. But which one of those shows are you most excited for the most going forward? As we look ahead for the Strongman fans.
I mean, all of them. I mean, Royal Albert Hall is something very, very special. I think if you're a Strongman fan and you don't try and get a ticket to that, you're bonkers, because it is the single great. It's not just the guys, the atmosphere, the events. Which we try and do it just to the very highest standard we can, and it's a fast, slick show. But the arena, it just is so magnificent. You've never been anywhere like it. It's like getting to go into the the Roman Colosseum or something. It's the way it's made and the age of it, the beauty of it, the atmosphere. It's just, every seat is red velvet. It's just beautiful. It's like little tiny candelabras, and it's just a hell of a place.
It's also the biggest stadium out of all of them, right? It holds the most people?
Not at all. No. When it was built and first opened in 1872, it was held actually nearly 15,000, but most of those were standing.
Okay.
And only the Queen's box and Marquess of Queensberry's boxes and the royalty, the aristocracy who built it, because it was something like 150 families stumped up money to make it. But and they still own boxes there to this day. So it's a funny old place. It's not owned by some big corporation or at all. It's a charity. You've got to be invited in there. You've got to have something called what's it called again? This old tomb. It's like tome or whatever you call it. It's called the Covenant, and there's rules and regulations and yes, you can come in. This is great. And they invite you. It's really quite a I mean, everyone from Muhammad Ali to the Rolling Stones are in the in the dressing rooms out the back, posters, and it's pretty cool. But Las Vegas.
So it's
Vegas, baby. That's the answer is actually Vegas, baby. That's the answer, because America is easily by a huge margin the biggest nation in the world when it comes to strength. And Giants Live, if you could dare I say, our Achilles heel is we are two British blokes, and Darren and I. And I would just love to come. And American audiences are the best. You can't have more fun than an American audience. Also, there's just more people who have the money to spend on that kind of thing and just make live shows happen. So there's so much scope if we can just get a foothold.
I'm pretty upset that I started Strongman after the Mohegan Sun Super Series. That would have been pretty cool to watch if I was still kind of I would have been in my teenage years, but that would have been awesome to see. But almost kind of like your blueprint to the first Giants Live, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I 5 Mohegan Suns I did with Super Series, and actually, sorry, 4. We did one. Our very first show, Giants Live. What's that? The Mohegan Sun. Were you not at it?
No, now think about it. It was
2009.
It was 2009, so I would have been in college just wrestling. But I wouldn't have been too far away. I would only been within like 2 hours, so I could have easily came over. But I just wasn't a strongman enthusiast at the time. I was too focused on wrestling guys and singlets and double legs and single legs and thrusting and throwing them around. So I wasn't a strongmaning at the time.
Okay, fair enough.
But
well, I mean, dude, we did do one. It was rather a great show actually, but the recipe, how to sell tickets we had 5,500 people come through the door, but almost all of them were comps, and the ones we got through the door paid so little that it just was incredibly unprofitable. In fact, it was a huge loss, massive money. And therefore, I went away from there. I actually lost my partners at the time, a company known as AEG, who are a mega company. And they just went away. They said, listen, this isn't going to fly, mate. You did some good talking to get us on board. And sadly, I'd left Super Series to try and make this because I felt Super Series was never going to grow. It was I didn't own enough of it, and it didn't have other people in it who maybe had exactly the same ambition I did for Strongman. So I was in a horrible position actually, really horrible. Thank God Daz came along to help me with it all, because he's helped make all his logistical abilities and to help make it a bit of success. So we have done Mohegan Sun. Maybe we'll go back to Mohegan Sun.
So
we're not doing it. We're not doing it for $20 a ticket for every ticket. That's for sure. That just doesn't pay the bills.
Absolutely. What do you think it was? You think it was just the general interest level in strongman at the time? Because you had guys like Derek Poundstone and Marius Pujanowski, like some of the biggest stars in strongman coming through.
No. It's a formula, mate. It's just a formula. It's a formula, and it's called money in, minus money out equals. And if it doesn't come in positive, you're a loss-making company. And my name isn't Arnold, and I don't have a Hollywood career behind me and millions in the bank. So I can't afford to make a screw up. And neither can Darren. Even Las Vegas, even after all these years of what must appear like great success, doesn't mean we have UFC money in the bank. We've never had any external help from anybody, and since AG left. So, I don't come to Las. Let me say this: it's going to be one hell of a show. Please, I don't want to lose the shirt off my back. Come down to Las Vegas because we're absolutely dropping a fortune on this show, and that is where the World Deadlift Champs are. And I know you're going to talk about Hapthor because you said to me before that, will we have Hapthor? I have no idea is the answer.
So,
but, if everyone comes and buys a ticket, maybe we'll have enough money to excite him. So, Nick, help me flog Las Vegas for God's sake, because it's America is where we should be. America is where a huge amount of strongman is, as we just saw. World's Strongest Man, it was great, and it can be a big hit. So.
It is laying an opportunity, but I think you're doing the right thing. I think I saw the Rag just got Rags on board, and of course you have a million other great deadlifters. So if you're advertising with like 10 guys pulling over 1,000 pounds plus a great show afterwards, I think, and especially with someone like Mr. Graham Hicks going for working towards 505 for over a year. When I talked to him in the winter, he's like, I'm going to skip World's Strongest Man and just focus on the deadlift, which not everybody in their right mind would do that, but he really wants to put it out there, and he's one of those kind of cool cats that I think could put a good run together if he has a good training plan, and so far he looks pretty good. So I think if anybody's in the area that's foolish, like my brother works out in Vegas, so I think he might be coming.
Yeah, in the area. Come on, Nick. Bloody hell, mate. You're not going to fly in for it.
I potentially, I think I might have I might have another commitment when it comes to kind of a small contest.
Come on, man. You can do better than this. You must come down and watch it. Everyone must come and watch it, for God's sake. Exactly. Because we are going to make the greatest show ever. So please, don't have I'm tired of people. I think I've met more than the whatever is 10 or 12,000 people who claim to have been to the Eddie Hall deadlift. Everyone's claims to have been there on that night. Don't be a claimer. Actually, come and be there, please. It's going to be immense at the Orleans Arena, which is where many of the Olympia competitions were held.
Absolutely.
And hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
1 second. September 28th. Put it in your diary, my friend. Put it in your diary. Come on down. I'm sure we can help you with a room, Nick.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll definitely be in touch about that. But we have been chatting with an hour. I don't want to take up most of your night. I know it's pretty late out in the UK, but a lot of people that watch this channel or watch this podcast usually are aspiring strongmen, especially lately. I think I've gotten more heavyweights looking on. I also have a lot of 105s that potentially might want to make the move to heavyweight and just follow the same role, potentially have more champs like Dan Hughes or maybe Jeff Lee coming through and becoming the next heavyweights. But in generally, if you're going to help mentor some of these individuals and compete in a world style competition, what would you suggest for them? Like, for instance, my biggest takeaway from Worlds is that you expect the unexpected. There's going to be a lot of variables that will be thrown your way, that you got to be adaptable and just keep moving forward. I think durability is a huge piece in terms of competing for almost 12 different events, but especially throughout those long times. Even the keg throw lasted for an hour and a half. So how do you keep your body optimal during that time? And then my big way then is just how can you be heat resistant? So do you train in the heat? Do you bring extra things to cool yourself off? Like Big Gav was saying, like the temperature difference between Wales and South Carolina was huge. It was very dramatic. But in general, what would you suggest to young aspiring strongmen if they ever make it to World's Strongest Man next year or in the years to come? How can they be best fit?
Part-time training, part-time results. Full-time training, full-time results. And once you get there, and with that recipe, you will get there more often. You will get there sooner, and you will therefore gain more experience. I can't tell you how to be a world-class strongman. I never was one. I wasn't particularly good strongman. What I can tell you is this, is that if you work really, really hard at something and have full belief in yourself, you absolutely can do anything and be number one. Why not? Who the hell's better than you to do it? So with that thought in mind, go do it. And just understand that, the old adage about, losing or what appears like failure is just another chance to learn. So, that's all it is. And go ask people who've done it. Go speak to people who've done it. Don't listen to bullshitters and snake oil salesmen. Go speak to the guys who've done it, because they'll tell you exactly how to do it. And almost all of them, will say, 1% talent, 99% hard work. That's just the way it is. And, you can buy yourself an under the sea chamber and go down to 10,000 liters under the sea if you really want to. But, if you're not actually, just do everything right. Do everything. This is what I actually said this to Evans and Anna. I'm going to come back. You know what he's like? He's a bit hyper. I'm going to come back 20% stronger next week, Colin. You're going to see it. I'm going to blow everyone out. I do this. You wait till you see what I can do in this. I'm going to gain huge amounts of weight. I said, mate, don't do that. Please. I beg you. Just make everything 1 or 2% better. Everything. Make your choice of food every day 1 or 2% better. You don't have to change everything. Just make your training, make your recovery 1 or 2% better in every angle, every aspect. And if you were to add it all up at the end of the year and you made yourself 10% better, how much better would you be? You didn't do that badly already. So there you go. So we've already seen the discussion here that Nick Canby, if he was on form, the current Nick Canby on form with no injuries would have been 7, 8, 9 points higher. Could have even been right in the running. And Nick Canby next year, who's on form, who improves everything by 1%, he's in the final. And then the next year, he's on the podium. And then the next year, you're getting old, so probably not. I'm joking.
But there is a little precedent of individuals coming back. I always like to kind of follow people's career. So you look at Evan Singleton, 5 trips. Of course, he didn't make the finals the first 3 years, make the finals second 2. And then you had guys like Martins who went from 6th place, 4th place, 4th place, 1st place. So there's a process of just getting 1%, 2% better and everything, and just keep coming back. But more importantly, stay healthy.
Something else. Say something else.
Yes.
Every WSM winner.
Keep talking.
The first day. Hey?
I'm just turning on the light so you can see me. All right.
Thinking you were looking a bit funny. Every single WSM winner I have seen, 28 editions of it now I've been involved in, they all ooze the X factor. It's as if they have the belief. You need the belief. You need to be, it's more than belief, though. There's a certain X factor to these guys. They will not stop it. All stones, will be turned over in the pursuit of greatness, because there are so many other men who are willing to turn over 95, 98, 99% of those stones, and then you got to get it right. You get the 100th. And don't just assume there's one, golden bullet that's going to, I'm going to bulk up to 200 kilos. That's not going to do you any good. Especially if you're only a 1 or 5 kilo athlete or something. It's not going to do any good at all. Play to your strengths, build up your weaknesses, just do it over time. Build up your confidence, go out there and crush it. And go berserk. Go fucking berserk in competition. Learn how to. Eddie talked about his way with psychologists and turning on the, that whole adrenaline of feeling like you've lifted a car off of somebody. That was how he did the 500. And look at Hathor. You have to say this about Hathor. He could go berserk like no man. And, he was right in competition. He stepped up and roared, and that's how you have to be. Brian Shaw was the world's biggest. If he looked at you, if you looked at Brian Shaw's eyes and anyone who's seen him compete and has been around him will know this. He's like a shark. He will rip your head off in the minute or so before he's about to compete, and then he's nice as pie afterwards. He's got a kill switch. Boom! Learn to flick the kill switch. Don't go out there and listen to heavy music all day, every day, or 6 hours before you compete. Learn how to flick it on and learn how to really rise your body's own ability to perform.
Just add that Tommy Stolman's what he says when he does stones is that he thinks that every member of his family is under one of those stones and he has to pick them up, and the last one is always Sinead. So that's so he has to save his family every time he does stones. So,
it works.
Pretty wild. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with, Colin, is I did mention a little bit about Thor, but it's just a prediction going forward. I think that seeing after this weekend, seeing the lore of Tommy, I don't think Tommy's going to slow down anytime soon. So he's going to, in the future, probably get his fifth title, and hopefully I'll stop him in one of those title runs. But he's going to continue, and then as big as World's Strongest Man continues, and as long as he keeps competing in the sport, there's going to be the fans are going to demand it. He's going to want to do it. The attention is going to be at World's Strongest Man, so he's going to come out. It could be maybe not next year or the year after, but one of these years he's going to come back to World's Strongest Man, and he's going to give it a ride.
Over here, dude. Let me save you. Let me save you a lot of build up. We invited Hapthor this year. Don't think we didn't. Of course, he's a former champion. Of course, he's invited back, and he didn't want to do it. And it's just he's got his own, series of. He's only just coming back from a major injury, and if you're wondering if I'm the hurdle in the way, I don't know. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is that, Hapthor and I have spoken a little bit in writing. Darren speaks to him. Lots of people speak to him much, much, much more than I do. Hell, I don't want to be the hurdle in the way of somebody coming to win another title. I would happily step aside. I'm not even the referee anymore. So there's not even there is no hurdle other than, it's got to suit him. So, Hapthor and I have discussed the past and things that happened. And I feel like Hapthor, it's quite, in many ways, a bit private between Hapthor and I, what happened personally, because it did happen. We were all pals after 2017. And, we shook hands, everything was fine. It was very manly and adult about it. I was a bit miffed as referee, but that's your referee. You got to take it on the chin. People get angry at your take on things, and so I did. And he was very. He came to Europe's Strongest Man the next year. You know what I mean? And came to Worlds and won it. You don't remember? And then, and I have apologized to Hapthor when COVID hit, and he made that announcement and put all the stuff out again. I happened to be the headline in his post. You and Colin Bryce cheated in 2017. And I wasn't really in a laughing mood then. And I wish I hadn't opened the archive to Andy Quinn's video, because once you start opening it, you can't just show a little bit. You then show a little bit more, and then suddenly it's a video. Well, this is an exciting video, isn't it? So it probably, and also it was a lot of that felt a bit confidential. So I did very much apologize to Hapthor, because it no doubt hurt him. I mean, what happened, but it didn't need. I didn't, as a referee, I didn't really, and producer and whatnot, I didn't really need to do that. I shouldn't have done that, but people do mistakes. I made the mistake of knee jerking back. I didn't want to be. I wanted to show what I felt was truthful and right, but it was a bloody fight hype. It was fight hype, but nobody thought to phone me up and tell me that. So, yeah, there's only so many times you feel your name can be kicked, and yeah.
But there
we go. So let me just say this again. I very much would love to see Hapthor at World's Strongest Man in any show I ever do. The guy's one of the greatest entertainers we've had, and he's ludicrously powerful. I've said before, I think Hapthor in 2018 into early 2019 was just about the strongest man who's ever lived. And he didn't deserve me to come back so angrily from what was really a fight hype Instagram post. It didn't read like that in mid 2020, in May 2020, when our business was collapsing and everything seemed to be going to shit. So yeah, I feel very bad. I feel really bad about it all because it then was only, God, I didn't even have a response. That's not great documentary making. You should have the response of somebody who's in it. So I just wish I'd like that chapter just to be sent away and out. I'm tired of talking about it. I'd love to see Hapthor at Worlds. I'd love to see him do anything. If he doesn't want to, no problem. I mean, it's his decision. It's his. I can't. He's a big boy, and he'll come if he wants. And he's very.
I think that the need and demand will be there for him to call on it. But I also, there's different situations where I've seen in life that if he could think he could win the title, he'd be there as well. So I think there's going to be a point where he's the biggest. He maybe becomes or surpasses that 2018 Hapthor, and then he finally takes the stage when the biggest lights and the biggest cameras are on him. So I think there's going to be a demand. There's going to be a situation where it comes. So it doesn't matter what's in his way. I think he'll be there. That's my
absolutely. But let me just be very clear about this. We are in the business of finding the world's strongest man, and therefore, of course, Hapthor would be great to have him there. And we'll just have to wait and see. I think you did kind of put your finger on it. If he feels it's right, he'll do it. And if he can get back to that shape again, he's done hell of a well considering his shoulder. It would be, it's World's Strongest Man is really 2 contests in a row, isn't it? That's the thing. It's a brutal 4 days, 5 days. You basically compete with a hell of a lot of great guys, and then if you're in the stone off, my goodness me, you got a tough ass job to then make the final, and then it's only a day off now.
Just durability.
I wish it was not 1 day off. I'd love to see it expand out to 2 or 3 days, and maybe it will. Maybe it will again. Maybe it can go weekend to weekend. I don't know, but I think that would be because it'd be nice to see everyone start the final absolutely fresh. But right now that's the honor of the guys who are in first, but probably Hapthor would be first. When did he ever finish a heat in second? Not often. So, but you then have to go out and do it all again with 10 more guys in 6 events. And it's just not an easy thing to do at all in the modern era, And
especially with them pushing all those heavy weights.
Yeah. Especially with Nick Camby around.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise everybody's game and raise everybody's levels of olive oils in their blood. So that's my goal.
Nick Camby, we love you, man. I better go off now and go see Bryce. Unless you have a last question or anything, a last thought.
That was my last comment. But we'll just tell everybody that's listening to like, comment, and subscribe, and notification bell. Many great podcasts on the way. Who does Colin want to see on the next podcast? Out of the 30 guys that I chatted with, who you want to see next on there? I got a few good ideas, but who does Colin want to see?
Go get Hapthor.
All right, I'll reach out to him.
That'd be quite a tricky one to get for you, I'm sure. All right, how about Mr. Guardioni?
He's on my list. He's on my list. So, but any of the 30 that just competed?
I think Tristan Hoeth is just. How did you pull it off? I can't get enough of it.
I'll dissect them and I'll get back.
Do you realize that on Tuesday night he was back at work as a cop? Isn't that great? They let him off Monday night.
Just patrolling the streets, protecting the people. That's what he does when he serves and protects. So very much like Ronnie Coleman. But Colin, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. It's very late where you are. So, but myself and all the Strongman fans appreciate it and look forward to the next time we get to have another chat.
Thank you very much for having me on, and please, I'll make sure I read all the comments, and it's always nice, even if I'm more of a voyeur than a take parter when it comes to writing things in comments. But yeah, I'll try and read everything, and so please take part in the discussion. And hopefully it would 2014, bloody hell, I'm knackered now. I'm going to need to go to bed. 2020 will be remembered as a great WSM and a great year, because I thought it was. I really do. And everyone played their part. The crowd played their part, but it will get bigger. It's going to get bigger and better, I promise you. Each and every year, we're going to keep chipping away. Hell, there might even be a live stream one day. You never know. You never know.
Fingers crossed. There you go, Colin.
Big love. Thank you.